While the Ted film franchise may come along as crude and immature, it successfully tackles several issues of young adulthood that other movies have avoided. One of the main examples of this includes moving on from the past, which this movie does not handle lightly. By making Ted adjust to an unfamiliar situation, this movie places a fictional character in a real-life situation. Furthermore, confronting stereotypes has been a hot topic in modern pop culture, but not to this wacky and unfamiliar extent. These are all topics that Ted dives into very deeply. Moving on from the past is a difficult subject. The Ted film starts to present it in a fresh, approachable way. The film opens with 10-year-old John Bennett growing up lonely in his small town with no friends. For Christmas, he asks for a teddy bear, which he gets, and they instantly become best friends. Still lonely, young John makes a wish that his teddy bear will come to life, and he does. After this, we see John and Ted grow up just like regular teenagers, until they become adults. When John and his girlfriend Lori get serious, she gives him an ultimatum, where he can either keep the bear or keep her. Keeping a stuffed animal or keeping the woman one loves seems like a simple decision. However, John quickly realizes that it is not that elementary, and he now must choose between leaving behind his adolescent lifestyle and his entire future. Countless other movies try to illustrate this topic of growing up, but none of them are this deeply infused into a metaphor. In this movie, writer and director Seth MacFarlane uses the teddy bear as a metaphor of childhood and perfectly puts in perspective how John is not just getting rid of his juvenile attitude, but also his best friend. By suggesting the dilemma of John prioritizing his adolescence or his girlfriend, this movie is putting the choice into a format that we all, at one point or another, had to face. The choice of deciding whether or not to get rid of stuffed animals. This is why such a comedic movie full of goofy humor can at times get very relatable, sad, and complex. Adapting to a new situation is seen as a laborious process, where somebody must triumph their way through, and rather than trying to change these feelings, the movie portrays it just like it is. This is a rare thing for movies to do. When John tells Ted he must leave, Ted reluctantly agrees and gets a cheap apartment. Ted is also forced to get a job at the grocery store to pay his bills. Instead of whining and moping around, Ted decides to make the best of it. He makes new friends and even gets a girlfriend. Although, this movie doesn't just have the good parts about adapting to new situations. When Ted tries to introduce people from his past life to his current life, it ends in a screaming war at a restaurant. In this situation, both John and Ted are uncomfortable, but neither of them knows what to do about it. They sit there awkwardly until Ted's girlfriend storms out, clearly upset. From this, Ted stays with his girlfriend, and things become very weird with his past friends. Usually, when cinema tries to show the mixture of two lives, for example, mixing work and social lives, it can be rough, but it usually works out in the end. In Ted, though, this mixing is just straight chaos, with no censorship. Seth MacFarlane, the writer of this film, claims that his goal with this film was to be, quote-unquote, brutally honest with the feelings and emotions of moving on from childhood. As much as every other young adult film tries to portray this feeling, none of them have this much of an extensive and raw feeling. Although this movie, as mentioned before, is full of brutally honest commentary on life, it does have its moments of triumph against what most stereotypes of being different can be. Ted, the main character of this film, is a 2-foot-tall, stuffed animal who smokes weed and hires prostitutes. As one may be able to identify, this is a bit out of the ordinary. Many people would think that he might get treated differently, but the narrator of the movie fully explains that no matter how much of a splash you make in this world, whether you're a talking teddy bear, eventually, nobody gives a crap. From this, although Ted had large accomplishments, such as being on the Johnny Carson show, we see that his fame quickly faded. Many movies with an unrealistic main character, such as various Scooby-Doo films, do the exact opposite of this. This can be seen where they portray Scooby as a well-known person, or even a celebrity, who has many friends and is easily recognized in his town. By going against this stereotype that supernatural characters are often popular in their own stories, Ted can change our perspective on something we never knew we even had. This is just one more of the many ways that Ted differs from cinematic norms and opens our eyes to what is possible. Overall, Ted does have a hard and brittle shell which portrays this movie as just a mere comedy, but underneath is a soft and emotional jelly, which takes this movie far past any place that a movie has ever gone before. By journeying through, moving on from the past, adapting to new situations, and abolishing stereotypes, this movie is an in-depth film that writers strive to meet the standards of today. This movie was not only groundbreaking for the comedic scene in Hollywood, but it redefined what a comedy could be, and what deeper and more thoughtful messages a movie of this sort could have.